Okay, so now we're going to be going over some simple mathematical expressions and how to use them with variables. So I'm going to declare two variables. I'm going to make one number, and I'm going to put a 1 at the end like this. So it's going to be number 1. And you can have numbers in your variable names. I should just make sure that you guys know that you can have numbers in your variable names. They just can't be the first thing in the name. They cannot start with a number. And I make another one, number 2, and I'm going to initialize these both as 0. Now, when I'm making a math expression, like say, I could make number 2 equal something else, like number 2 equals 5. I'm just going to leave that there. Something that you should know with the equal sign is it's pretty much the same as in math, but it's not quite the same. What the equal sign is really doing is it's saying everything on this side is going to equal everything on this side. And so that doesn't really seem as too different from regular math. But what if I was to say something like now 4 equals number 2? Now that doesn't make any sense because 4, you cannot assign the value 4 to 5. Sorry, that's my clock going off. You cannot make 4 equal to 5. Because in traditional arithmetic, it goes both ways, right? Everything on either side equals the other side. But 4 does not equal 5. You can have a variable take the value of 5 and take whatever was in it before and replace it with 5. But you cannot take 4 and replace the value 4 with 5. That doesn't make any sense. So this is the difference between an equal sign in computer programming versus an equal sign in math. That's a little bit difficult to understand. If you want to, I would watch this again and kind of just make sure you get that. Is that an equal sign doesn't just mean equals, it's an assignment operator. It is assigning something. It is assigning everything on the left to whatever value it sees on the right. So if it sees a value over here, it is going to assign this value to this. So whenever you are making an expression where you're trying to change the value of a variable, make sure the variable is on the left. So you put the variable that you are changing on the left. Now, you can do tons of different things with this. I can not only can I assign variables to numbers, I can assign variables to variables. Like, see, now that I have number 2 storing 5, what if I wanted to make number 1 equal 5 also? Well, I could write number 1 equals 5, or I could have number 1 equals number 2. So, this is just going to be a quick little kind of pop quiz question, but how is this statement, how would this be different if instead of number 1 on this side, number 2 on this side, how would it be different if they were swapped? What would the value in either place be then? So if I was to say, hold this right here, and output the value of number 1, what would I see on the screen? So think about that. Compile that really fast, give yourself an answer, and see what you would see. And then swap the places of these two and compile it again and see what you see. Now, something else that I'm going to include in this is mathematical operators. So like, you guys understand how math works, I'm assuming, basic arithmetic, addition, multiplication, and division, and subtraction. So let's say I wanted to say number 2 equals 5 minus 10. So that's going to be negative 5, right? So number 2 should be equal to negative 5. I'm going to put number 2 here. We're going to see out number 2 and see what we see on this. I'm going to save it really fast. And why am I not seeing compile and run? Oh, 1 second. Oh, that's right. Okay, something you should keep in mind is if your program is already running, you're not going to be able to compile and run it. So make sure to close out of the program before you try and compile it again. See, it wasn't letting me compile it before, and now it will. All right, negative 5 right there. So you can see that it's going to be negative 5. So let's put 2 in the place of number 1, and then I'm going to show you something else. If I have number 2 equals 5 minus number 1, what do you think number 2 is going to equal? It's the value of number 2 is going to be assigned to whatever it sees over here. So it's going to be 5 minus the value of number 1, which is going to be 2. So 5 minus 2 equals 3. So we should see 3 when we compile this. All right there, we are correct. So a few other things you can do is remember, if you remember the order of operations from school, it's pretty much the exact same. So if I was to say 5 minus number 1 times 2, this is going to do the multiplication operation first. Oh, and just so you know, the multiplication sign in C++ is not like an X, it is a asterisk, which is above your 8 key. So if I was to do this first, it's going to be 5 minus the result of 2 times 2, which is going to be 4. So this should output 1 on the screen when we're done. So right there, the value of number 2 is 1. So this can work with, say, division, which is a slash. Or if I wanted to do this in a different order, let's say I wanted to do the subtraction first. Let's say I wanted to do 5 minus 2 and then divide it by 2. So let's see what we get when we do this. 5 minus 2 is going to be 3, and then divided by 2, 3 divided by 2 should be 1.5. But hang on a second, why is this outputting a 1 on the screen? Well, I'm going to tell you why that is. It has to do with the fact that we have only integers that we're working with, and 1.5 isn't an integer, but number 2 is an integer. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about typecasting in the next tutorial. So until then, kind of understand how mathematical operators work here, the order of operations, and memorize what operators do what. So just so you know, plus is the same, minus is the same, multiplication is an asterisk, and division is a slash. Keep these in mind, and I will see you in the next tutorial.